Education scholar, both at Columbia University. She's a founding member of the National Council of Incarcerated and Formerly Incarcerated Women and Girls, and she also discusses the issue about incarceration and post-incarceration. Joining her, of course, is Stacey Ann Daniel, who is the liaison officer and house coordinator of the Ladies of Hope Trinidad. And at the outset, it's a pleasure to have you both here. We don't usually have conversations who have been incarcerated, so I'm really looking forward to this one. I'm going to start with you first, of course. Ladies of Hope Ministries, services are offered. How do you help these incarcerated and formerly incarcerated women?
Absolutely. So our organization, we say we have an epic vision to end poverty and incarceration of women and girls globally. And we do that through two pillars. One is direct service and sustainability, and the other is advocacy. What we know is we cannot advocate for ourselves, for our loved one, or the world unless our basic human rights are met, which is safe and affordable housing, access to healthy food, and equitable opportunity through job and career development placement. That's not just in the United States, that's everywhere in the world. And so for us, as we started the organization in New York and scaled it to New Orleans, when we looked at this year through some of our partners, where do we want to make the greatest impact? We wanted to do something in the Caribbean. It's the part of the world that is overlooked, and there's nothing here, and there are sisters who need support. And so I had the great opportunity to meet Stacey a few years back, and the rest is history.
Nice. Well, Stacey, I'm going to bring you in here. Okay. I mean, we have the local chapter opening. I know it isn't opened as yet, but tell us about it. First of all, how did you make partnership with Dr. Sam?
Dr. Sam and I met in 2016, and she was starting her new journey with opening Hope House, New York. I always tell her, we need to bring this back to Trinidad. And then, I think it was last year, I called and said, I'm going back. So she's like, yeah, we're going to do this. So the house was already being built by my family, who's in the construction field already. And it's recently been finished. So now we're looking to open and expand throughout the Caribbean, right?
Yep.
So you were over in the U.S. when you met Dr. Sam?
Yes.
And you came back and you were like, it's time to get it started
here.
Nice. What are some of the services you're hoping to offer women? And is it going to be launched in July?
Yes. We're doing a program with Google. We have some other programs that we're bringing in from the States that we will focus on bringing it in. And we all would correspond verbally.
Yeah, so some of the programs we'll be doing here the same that we do in the U.S. So we have a doula initiative through our health equity work, which is training women on how to be birth doulas so that they can have alternative birthing practices, because outside of all the numbers of incarceration, we also have a high maternal morbidity rate for Black women. We die during pregnancy, and so we decided to do that for women as another option for employment. We train women on how to use their voice for policy advocacy. We have an ambassador here in Trinidad now to work on changing some of the policies of incarcerated women. And also, Stacey was talking about our Google digital skills training. We were co-founder with Google on that. So we'll bring that so women can get different types of certification, professional development, and training and opportunity.
So it's all about helping women when they come out of prison to kind of like get that start that they need to get going again.
Yeah, so it's about helping while they're out, also helping while they're in. So we're hoping we meet with the Commissioner of Prisons today, so hoping that he'll allow us to do some of these programs inside. But then it's also families impacted. So when I was in prison and I came home, for me, it was, let me start this organization to help women like me. But when I came home, I realized there were women like me who didn't need as much help because I came home to my family. And who needed support was also women who had husbands, boyfriends, fathers, daughters, grandmothers who had children in prison. They too needed different skills-based training and opportunities. So we support all women that are impacted by the criminal legal system.
Now, as you mentioned, your time in prison, I know that opening this ministry would have been because of the things that you would have faced while incarcerated. What are some of the challenges of women, and specifically women of color?
Yeah, so I mean, outside of us being, women of color, right? We're the lowest paid when we think about employment. In the U.S., it's 75% of all women who are released from prison will remain unemployed within the first 5 years. Black women are at like 1/3% of how much money people are making as it relates to salary. So you think about that. You already have that. You have a conviction. There's barriers to housing. because of the discriminatory practices of people who are actually coming home from prison, you can't find a job, you can't find somewhere to live. A lot of times women are trying to get their children back. They don't know where their children are because they're lost in the foster care system. So it's all of these things. So what we do is, one, we bring sisters home, we say, hey, right? We're not thinking you just came out of prison. We do this contribution plan. They'll pay a certain amount of money toward their living expenses, but then we give half of that back when they leave, so that way they have a savings to go into their next step of the journey. We make sure we're connecting them to other resources, whether it's they want to go back to school, whether they, want to start a speaking career, whatever it is that they want to do. We ask, like, who do you want to be when you grow up? This is an opportunity for you to be able to truly transform your life, starting anew, and that's what we try to help to do.
Now, Dr. Sam, I was reading your bio, and it's amazing. I mean, the things that you've achieved thus far. But you were talking about some of those hurdles that you had to overcome it, right? Mm-hmm. How were you able to overcome those things and become so successful as you are now?
Well, one, God. I give God all the glory. I know that my journey has been ordered. My steps have been ordered, and I am a true and living testament to that. Two is my parents, my brothers, my siblings, my friends. I had a huge network of support in and coming out, and I couldn't have done any of that without them. And then it was me, like my own, fortitude, understanding that when I was inside and I went through my spiritual transformation, I knew once I asked God for forgiveness and I was forgiven, then that was all that I needed. I didn't have to get validation from man and worry about what people about. I needed to stand in narrative, because I can either have people say why I went to prison, what did I do to get to prison, and they make their own story. I share my own.
Yeah.
And that was what I decided to. When I talked to my parents, they was okay. I was like, this is what I want to do. They're okay, cool. So, it was all good.
Yeah. I mean, how did your time in prison change the perspective of people who are incarcerated? Because sometimes think the worst of people who are incarcerated.
Absolutely.
Not knowing, of course, that they would have made a mistake, and so they need second chances. Mm-hmm. How did it change your perspective?
So for me, I was telling them the story that I shared sometimes when people ask me this question. Before I went to prison, I was division chairperson for Amtrak, which is a transportation company in the States, for New York and DC. I had a business. I was opening another business. I come from parents who are franchise business owners. I'm classically trained in piano, dance. Like I had all the things. I had all the things, yes. Right? So, we all make choices and decisions that land us sometimes in places that we don't think we would. But I share that before I went to prison or was arrested, the last trip I was on, I went my annual girls trip with my friends to Hawaii, flew first class. And the next plane I was on, I was handcuffed and shackled to us. I've never been on a plane before. And for me, it was this relation. No matter where you come from and what journeys are, a lot of times it can land you in the same place. And so it allowed me to really understand and see people as people, because, sometimes we think either, we're too bougie, or we come from a certain place, or, I'm not from the community, or I'm left that community. And in fact, Reverend Wolford from Harlem, First Corinthians Baptist Church, she said the other day on an interview we did with CBS that, some of us just didn't get caught. Like we all make mistakes. And, the Bible says that it's not one perfect man, not even one. And so, I lend to people to understand that we all have something in our life that's us perfect. But that imperfection can make us perfect in God's eyes. And it doesn't mean because I've been through something that is going to define my life. I always, that, I went to college, but I didn't finish, but I ended up getting an honorary doctorate in divinity. I went to prison and I got a pardon from President Trump, and I didn't apply. Like, I was supposed to be in prison 10 years and I got out in 3. So, when I think about, God and the greatness of God and the things that can happen, and I dreamed of this while I was in prison, and I have an organization that is scaling globally, that is led by a previously incarcerated woman of color, that provides hope, for all of the millions of women that are impacted by this.
Oh, I want to ask you again, Cece. I mean, how beneficial do you think a program like this is for us in TNT?
I think it's 100% beneficial, even more, because we only have one right now, which is Vision.
Vision and Mission.
Yes,
yeah.
And they're for the men, and nothing for the women. And so, but when we started with change in Trinidad, some of our girls are still going in entails. Nothing has changed so far, so I think this is the big change here.
And what are some of the objectives or aims that you're bringing to the Prisons Commissioner when you meet him later today?
Well, our objective is that what we can bring to the prisons, which is our Google, our team of networking and stuff like that. That's what we were bringing to him today. Yeah.
Appreciate that. Now, Dr. Sam, you have some stats about how many women have been incarcerated and that sort of thing. Specifically, the women who we see behind bars, what are some of the issues that they're dealing with before they even get incarcerated?
Right. So it's about 95% of all women who are presently incarcerated struggle with some type of mental health issue, whether it's something like anxiety, depression, all the way up to schizophrenia. About 90% of all women have been subjected to some type of sexual trauma, violence, or domestic intimate partner violence. 90% of women have some type of substance misuse issue, and 85% are mothers. So when you're looking at all this data and you're understanding that there are drivers to lead people into, a lot of those drivers come from poverty and other things that happen because we don't have access. When we speak about women of color, I laugh from the other segment, all the colors but yours. When we think about women of color specifically, we are marginalized. And when we are marginalized, we don't have access. So if you don't have access to mental health treatment, quality health care, then you self-medicate. You find what's readily available to you. And there's what really changed my life and moved me into doing work. There was a sister I was incarcerated with in my first part of my journey, and I asked her, why did she use drugs? Because though I was convicted of a federal drug charge, I didn't use drugs. And she said that her father had been raping her, and he gave her heroin and told her to take the heroin so the pain would go away. And when I heard, I understood that she did not have a choice. Someone who we think, like my father, yours, who take care of us, who love us, who protect us, harmed her, and then gave her drugs in order for her to be an object of his own abuse and desire, right? And so, again, it's these stories behind why women and people, period, use, why, they go into these different trajectories. And I think that we should give people a little bit more grace in understanding this data.
And of course, the rates of women coming out, for example, if we didn't have a program like yours or even programs similar without that intervention, what are some of the pathways that these women may take?
They will go back into either use substance misuse, sex trafficking, human trafficking, sex work, stealing, and then go back to prison. So that's where recidivism comes in, right? So, they say 75% of all people who go to prison will come back to prison the first 3-year release. And in countries like Trinidad and Tobago, where there aren't opportunities really for employment, I heard just yesterday that a lot of people during the pandemic end up getting, terminated like everywhere else in the country, but then there aren't other opportunities for people to get back on their feet. So now you're subjecting an even higher population to prison. And so, how do we help that? And that's really by providing these opportunities and services. So we're really excited to be here, to have the opportunity to work in this country, and hope to be able to give back in any way that we can.
Yes. Now I know that you expanded to TNT and other parts of the Caribbean. What other countries are you looking, of course, what's next for LOHM?
Right, so within the Caribbean, we're looking also at Jamaica and Barbados and Bahamas, and then Bogota, Colombia, which is another part, but and so we're looking to do that in the next 3 years. All the other places in the Caribbean, the U.S. This year it's Miami, Florida, Maryland, Prince George's County, Maryland, and Baltimore, and Atlanta, Georgia. And I mean, we're hiring all. So, holla at Stacy here. As we expand, we'll also need additional support. As we're building or actually outfitting the house and furnishing the house, we're looking for donations, anything we can do, anybody can give. I always say time, talent, and treasure. If you don't have money, though we need it because we're nonprofit, you can give your talent. Maybe you can help assist a resume, or maybe the clothes that you don't wear anymore that someone can really use coming home from prison. And then your time, like I said, my family, I had mentors who supported me in my journey. Women need to see other women that are not where they are, right? Are not from where they are, so they can thrive to see something else. I'm excited. I'm grateful. Thank you for allowing us here. And hopefully, we'll make a great impact. Any of the other community-based organizations that are here that want to work with us, we believe in collaboration and not competition, because the more that we work together, the more people have the opportunities and services that they need.
I'm not sure if you can say, Dr. Sam or Miss Daniel, numbers, social media handles that people can reach out to you.
Yeah, so my social media handle is at Topeka KSAM, Topeka KSAM, SAM. The organization is at the LOHM, so at THELOHM. They can text 41444 to THELOHM 2022 if they want any information. You want to give your email? I don't know if you want to give your phone number on TV, but
that's something local, so we can reach out to you. Yes.
We same LOL, Stacy and Carter at LOHM.com.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah. We also will give you have a local number, no?
No.
Okay, no.
We'll just take the website.
Yeah, she's like, no, I don't want to
like, no. But Dr. Sam, Ms. Daniel, let me thank you guys so much for joining us here. I think the information that you gave out was so incredible, and I hope that you do see some success with the Prisons Commissioner this evening. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
And that was Dr. Sam and Ms. Daniel, of course, from the LOHM Ministries, just talking about how they can help incarcerated women and formerly incarcerated women locally and across the globe. You're on the Now Morning Show. We're going to take a quick break and be right back. Stay with us.
Check everybody else. Yes. Make sure I'm checking.